Hello. So, it is time for week 5 of GSC Season 4. Yep, got there in the end. This time we're against Torkoal Fever and the Glasgow Mercros, and as you can see, we're doing this team builder after we've played the match. We're also doing the match post commentary because it probably, I'm gonna say this now, is gonna be not a very good live commentary. Let's go over their team first. Their team consists of Zygote 50%, Mega Sizzle, Galarian regular Darmanitan even, Starmie, Roserade, Alolan Ninetales, Galarian Moltres, Hitmontop, Arctozolt, Wigglytuff, Trapinch, and Lopunny. So, I disregarded, like, the last 3 mons, entirely when team building, but some very important context for this match, I was unbelievably tired. So, like, for most of my matches, I end up actually, like, waking up, pretty much, like, 5 to 10 minutes before them, which is why at the start of every recording, I sound tired. This one, I woke up and I felt utterly miserable. I had no energy to get out of bed. So I very begrudgingly sat down to play this match, especially because I did not actually think I had a good matchup going against this. So, yeah, the main reason for this is actually Arctozolt. I have a pretty prominent ice weakness, and I don't really have any real way to just stop Arctozolt from sweeping my team. There is no dedicated Pokemon I can bring to stop Arctozolt from just winning the game. And so this was not an easy match to prep for. So, on top of that, you know, I've got to worry about things like Zygarde and Mega Sizzle, Starmie, Roserade, Galarian Moltres as a potential stop to Dragapult. I was just like, yeah, there's no way I win this. Like, Arctozolt ruins me. I have 5 ice weaknesses, and my resistance to ice are a Dragapult, which will die. Not Dragapult. My resistance to ice are resistance to ice. Entei, who's not that bulky, can't really take 2 Bolt Beaks. What else we got? We got Blastoise, but it can Bolt Beat me, and it gets Freeze Dry. And then Jirachi, who does not take 2 Life or Bolt Beaks. So yeah, Arctozolt runs a train on my team. So I kind of was not excited for this. I actually sat down with Vitrina for a bit of this team building process, and they gave me some pretty solid ideas on what to go with. I kind of finagled the rest myself. But like half the team was actually built with them, so I want to give a shout out to them. Vitrina, actually someone who met in the UBL, and we kind of spoke about this matchup. So yeah. So I have to expect Alolan Ninetales and Arctozolt 1000%. I have to expect Moltres here. And then Zygarde and Sizzle, I pretty much have to expect as well. And then it's one of the last 3 between Starmie and Roserade, and I have to be ready for Starmie. Roserade I have natural answers to. Starmie less so due to its coverage. Darm as well. Darm, with how I've had to build for Zygarde as well, I've had some natural answers to. So, as for the team that I end up bringing, I guess we're starting backwards. We'll go backwards this time. Make it different. Yachi Berry Mudsdale. This is the best I could come up with. This is genuinely the best I could come up with for stupid what's-his-face. For stupid Arctozolt. Boltbeak is stronger than Blizzard, so I wanted to have Mudsdale to be my quote-unquote check. If it's going to Boltbeak, we get a free switch into Mudsdale, and then we live Icicle Crash because of the Yachi Berry. However, if they Blizzard, there's a very good chance we die. So that's an issue. The other thing was I didn't want my check to Arctozolt to just be useless in the long game. So we've got Earthquake, Stealth Rock, Roar, and Rest. This is also my Zygarde check. We can roar any non-banded Zygarde, you know, if it's any Coil or DD or anything like that, we can roar it out. Rest to keep ourselves healthy, because we're going to need that, especially if it's a Coil. It's our Stealth Rocker. If we get to set it up, if there's no Hail, then there's a good chance we can set it up, but otherwise it's going to be a bit tricky. And Earthquake just does relatively good damage into most things. Just max, it's our physically defensive Pokemon here. Next up, Specially Defensive Mandibuzz. This kind of has to come because of Starmie. It's the best thing I've got to take it. We can take 2 Life Orb Thunderbolts. Knockoff. I was contemplating between Knockoff and Foul Play, but I decided on Knockoff because there's a decent, Foul Play is exclusively for Mega Scizor, but Knockoff is generally good into pretty much everything else. So I was like, I'll just go with Knockoff. If I do get to Knockoff on the Starmie, then I can actually Roost Stall it a bit. Whereas without it, it's a lot more difficult to Roost Stall. Defog and Roost. Defog, Roost, and U-Turn even. Oka's actually handy here because of Hail, so that's a thing. But yeah, and I went with Boots. In hindsight, Boots was not a good call here. They have, like, no Stealth Rockers, so it's like, Boots should have been leftovers here, but I think I autopiloted a little bit with the Mandibuzz, I'll be honest. Next up, Scarf Jirachi, the main suggestion from Vitrina for this one. Scarf Jirachi does in fact outspeed the Arctozolt, and while Iron Head isn't super effective, that's a 60% chance to flinch it. And while, you know, I could have gone, like, special with... No, just not special with Flutkin. I could have, like, run something to try and, you know, hit it a little bit harder. There wasn't really a lot to go for. It would have been, like, what, Drain Punch? It's like, that's not worth it. Whereas the other moves are all really good. Obviously, Iron Head, U-Turn were always going to be on here. Fire Punch does pretty reasonable damage into the Scizor if it wants to come in. And Zen Headbutt does reasonable damage overall to the rest of their team. Notably, I think I would have had nothing really for Hitmontop if I didn't have this. So, yeah, we got the speed to outspeed the Arctozolt, max attack, and then just a little bit of HP just dumped in. It wasn't going to be useful defensive, so I went with offensive here. Next up, Entei. Kind of a bulky offense Entei with lefties. Entei has a lot of potential to do work here. We've got a little bit of speed. This means that after a +1 speed with Flame Charge that we were going for, we actually outspeed Starmie. We're also carrying Weather Ball, because even Zygarde still will not appreciate a Weather Ball coming from Ice because they have the Hail for us. So that's an extra way for us just to deal with Zygarde really easily. Otherwise, Sacred Fire and Extreme Speed are pretty standard. Adamant Max Attack. Just want to be dealing a lot of damage. Entei is, of course, going to come here when they've got a Mega Scizor. Why wouldn't it? It's also generally pretty good into a lot of the other Pokemon, to be honest. Burning Zygarde is nice. Rose Raid and the Hail stuff as well. Pretty solid overall, so I was, like, super down to bring Entei. Next up, Life Orb Mix Pult. Infiltrator because of the Aurora Veil, and we've got Dragon Dart, Shadow Ball, Fire Blast, and U-Turn. We've got Dragon Dart over Dragon Pulse or Draco Meteor because the expected counter to this is going to be their Moltres. And Moltres has a lot more special defense than physical. So I ran just enough special attack to make sure I could Life Orb Fire Blast Okos any Mega Scizor, even max F ones. Shadow Ball is generally going to hit a lot of their team really well. And because it's not that bulky of a team, it's going to 2-hit KO most things. And then the darts is for the Moltres mostly, and then obviously U-Turn. We've got speed. While it's like, wait a minute, why are you running so much speed? They don't have anything that fast, right? Well, if they don't run a plus speed nature on their Arctozolt, Dragapult will actually outspeed it. So that's what we've gone for. We've got enough speed to outspeed an Adamant or a Modest, just a not plus speed natured Arctozolt, just in case they want to get a little greedy with it. I've shown a few of my sets already, even though I haven't uploaded my matches, but I've shown sets, and I've shown that I've just been willing to bulk out my Dragapult. This time I'm going to see if it catches them off guard. So, and last but not least, bulky Mega Blastoise. This also is a really good switch into Zygarde. Zygarde is a pain, but I believe this was actually to make it so I could live a 2-banded Thousand Arrows. The rest went into special attack, Flip Turn, Water Pulse, Ice Beam, and Dark Pulse. I needed something to hit Starmie, so Dark Pulse it was. Water Pulse and Ice Beam generally hits the rest of their team really solidly here, so. As for the match itself, you see the team that they brought, and they actually ended up bringing Wigglytuff. Now, I didn't think about this, and I should have. Of course they were going to bring Wigglytuff, because it's a normal and fairy type. Why would they not bring Wigglytuff? It's a very cheap Pult answer, so, yeah. Other than that, you notice there is no Zygarde here. They actually opted not to bring Zygarde here, and actually brings Roserade is kind of the extra Pokemon that I was expecting. So, no Moltres and no Zygarde, kind of were the Pokemon I was expecting. No Hitmontop, it was a possibility, but, you know, that was it. And of course, you know, then there's the Hail stuff, you know, the Ninetales and the Arctozolt, Mega Scizor, and the Starmie as well. So, I'm thinking, okay, so Pulse is such an obvious lead for me, right? Pulse just a great lead overall. So I'm thinking, okay, so what are their, like, what are their lead options? Well, they could lead Ninetales and try and, like, scout for a fire move. Kind of the same with Scizor as well. Both of those could be, like, leading to scout fire moves. Or if they just want to you know, test me. Even maybe not expecting me to kill with a Fire Blast on Mega Scizor, they could very safely lead that. They could hard read it and go Wigglytuff. And I'm just, like, looking at the team, I'm like, alright, well, pretty much everything doesn't really appreciate Entei. The only way that leading Entei goes wrong here is if they lead Starmie, and what, they're going to lead Starmie into Pult? That doesn't seem very likely. So they lead Starmie. And I'm like, really? You lead Starmie when I've got the most obvious Pult lead in the world? Oh my god. So, my mood was already not good due to being super tired, and after that I was like, there's no way. So, I have to switch into Mandibuzz here. It's my best way to just, you know, check Starmie. I'm like, you've got to be joking me. Obviously, I'm not going to make a turn 1 read here and expect them to flip turn. I don't think that is a far too risky move. So we just go into Mandibuzz, we take the Surf, and we see it's not Life Orb here. Which is really, really nice. I was very worried about Life Orb Starmie, and this way it's not a problem. So it's probably going to be more of maybe a bulkier set. And we kind of see that with the flip turn here. So they flip turn on out, they go into Alolan Ninetales, set up the Hails, I go for a knockoff here. I figured unless Scizor comes in exactly, knockoff is going to be pretty reasonable, and if they want to stay in and try and, like, kill my Mandibuzz, I'll take a knockoff and try and roost up later. There's just a couple things they can try and roost up on here. And also just getting a ton of damage on the Starmie would have been much appreciated. Starmie was quite a problem. And Mandibuzz was basically here for the Starmie, so, like, it wasn't going to do too much else here. Obviously they get the Hail, and, we do see here the item is the Icy Rock, so they're going full in on Hail, trying to get the Arctozolt to set up and sweep. We do get rid of it, obviously, but I obviously cannot stay in against an Alolan Ninetales, so I'm just going to get out into Entei. I think Entei is pretty safe here. Like, there's nothing Alolan Ninetales can do to Entei, so they just set up Veil, I get my, you know, we pass back, and then they go to Wigglytuff. They actually just don't have a switch in that they want to go into. They don't want to go into Starmie, just in case I'm carrying Crunch here, which is very reasonable. I do get Crunch, and I was just not running it here. I was very tempted to run Crunch, but instead I just go for a Sacred Fire. And I miss. If you saw my week 1, you saw how I felt about Sacred Fire misses. So, I'm like, well, that sucks, but, you know, it's not the end of the world. We'll just go for it again. Get this thing whittled down. They go for a T-Bolt, and it does reasonable damage, to be honest. Like, saying I'm a bulky Entei, like, that does pretty reasonable damage. I'm like, well, if this thing gets whittled down, then Pult can do some pretty solid work here. So, let's get this thing whittled down a bit. It should die. After looking at, I'm like, okay, Hail goes first, so Hail will get the kill as long as I hit the Sacred Fire. And then I miss a second. And the tilt really set in here. The tilt was unbelievable. After this point, my brain just shut off. Because that was a kill for sure. Although not for sure, but a very likely kill. If it lived on one, it lived on one. It was unfortunate. Whatever. But I miss. I've also got the 50% chance of a burn there. And I miss it. And I'm fuming. I'm already super tired, super, like, grumpy. And just, so again, one of the reasons why doing a live comp probably wouldn't have gone well. I was just super, super grumpy, and this just set me on full tilt. So, there's no reason for me to go for this again, but I go for it anyway. And there is a roll, and it lives. So I lose, like, most of my Entei because I missed 2 Sacred Fires. I get the burn, but the burn's too late. Entei's already taken so much damage, and in comes Starmie. I'm like, well, my Mandibuzz has taken too much damage. I can't take 2 because I'm not running leftovers for some reason. They could call, and either way, they could call the Mandibuzz here. So I'm like, well, what do I do? So I go to Jirachi, you know, trying to see what they want to do. I knew I could at least take 1 hit, and Jirachi is offensive, so I'm not too worried about keeping a lot of its HP here. So, they just flipped on out, though, because that will probably kill the Entei. And they just go to Scizor, and I'm like, well, I'm not staying around. Actually, no, wait, I am staying around here. Again, this is where I'm on tilt, and there's no reason for me to do this. I just go for a Fire Punch and just do, like, 50% to this thing. I think my thought process was, Entei's low. I need to make sure that Entei's roll isn't going to be as impactful, so I'm just going to get damage on this. If this thing went for a knockoff, I was in a lot of trouble, but they don't. They just go for a U-turn here. Expected me to U-turn out, which makes a lot of sense. And they just go back into Starmie, because they see I'm fire punching, so they can assume that I'm more offensive. So, but I just go into Blastoise, because it's the only thing I've really got at this point that wants to take Surfs. Mega Run up, and they flip turn on out, and they don't reveal anything that wants to hurt me. I'm like, cool, that means I get to flip turn on out, and I finally get a bit of momentum on my side. Now I go into Pult, because I think, okay, so what do they do here? They could go to Ninetales, but I've got Fire Blast. They could go to Starmie, but Darts is going to do a ton of damage, and they're not going to be able to take 2 hits. Sizzle, I've got the Fire Blast for, and Archosaur, they haven't got Hail up for. So it's like, well, I look at the damage, and I actually see that it's a roll if they're at full. I forgot about the flip turn damage here, so I get, like, a little nervous. But you can see 51%. We were going to get a kill. No problem. So, in comes Alolan Ninetales. And I decide not to get greedy here. I think I just U-turn. Yeah, I just U-turn here. I decided not to get greedy. I could have Fire Blasted very reasonably there, but I just decided not to. I've shown them a physical Pult from their knowledge, so they just like decide to just go into Sizzle, just try and take a hit, maybe a bit of Chip. I go for the Sacred Fire because I'm like, well, they're only switching to Starmie, and Starmie's not going to appreciate it. So I look at the damage and I'm like, okay, I've got no switchings to Starmie. And Entei's kind of done its purpose at this point. So I'm just going to go for it. I'm going to go for the kill here. And it does 40%. So they go for the Surf, they get the kill on me. But with the Hail and the Burn, this gets a kill. This was not a worthwhile trade. I lost my only form of priority, and they've still got Archosaur in Hail. So we've got an issue. My only way of outspeeding it, as long as if it's plus speed nature, is Jirachi. So we've got a problem. So they go to the Archosaur, very obviously, and I have to go to Jirachi because it's the only thing I've got really that can deal with it. So I just go for it. I go for the Iron Head because it's all I've got, and I've just got to pray for flinches. They just switch out though. They don't know if I've got anything to actually kill them. And it's just a hard switch there. I don't want to risk my Jirachi. It's like, there's a 60% chance I get the kill here, but I don't want to take that risk. I'm just going to go to Mega Blastoise. I can take the knockoff, I can take pretty much whatever it wants to go for, and just go to Blastoise and just, you know, do whatever. I can just go for a Water Pulse here pretty reasonably. Okay, yeah. I think initially I was actually going to go minus speed to get slower flip turns than this thing, which would have been interesting here, but, you know, we do 50% with Water Pulse, negating the Roost as they U-turn on out, and they go into Alolan Ninetales, and I think, well, I can't really switch. It's not like Blastoise are going to do much for the rest of this game anyway. I'm just gonna, you know, take it here, just take the Freeze Dry, go down, and force them, you know, if they're going to set up Aurora Veil, then they can set up Aurora Veil. Jirachi comes in, obviously, I'm scarfed at this point. We get the crit there. Crit doesn't really matter because the Hail was likely to kill. In fact, the crit in theory is less good for me because there's a chance that the crit would have made it so that the crit always makes it so that the Scizor dies here, but there's a chance that without the crit, the hail doesn't pick up the KO on the Scizor, and as a result, there's one less turn of hail. So there's arguments, but obviously Archosaur comes in here, and I just have to go for it. I go for the Iron Head, and we get the flinch, and I'm like, all right, well, I'm in this game. Do I want to risk 2 in a row? Probably not. So I just decide here, I'm just like, okay, there's 1 turn of hail, I'm going to go to Mandibuzz, I'm just going to sack it off. So we sack off Mandibuzz, and I go to Pult. I'm like, alright. We go to Pult, I don't think Shadow Ball's a guaranteed kill, I'm just going to go for Darts. The worst thing that happens is a Alolan Ninetale comes in, and I've just got to try and Fire Blast it after that. So Alolan Ninetale comes in, and I'm like, alright, cool, we go for the Darts, that's fine. As long as we hit this Fire Blast, alright, we hit the Fire Blast, that's good. Now do we beat this Archosaur? There's 4 turns of hail here, or 3 turns of hail. And in theory, I should have kept Pult alive, but I choose not to here. In theory, it is better for me to sack off Mudsdale. Or even Calc if Jirachi, no, Jirachi doesn't live at this point. Try and sack off Mudsdale. Trying to stall out the hail. Instead, I just let it go. I go to Jirachi. Again, here I really should sack off Mudsdale, but at the same time, I think at this point it's pretty much, I need a flinch. And I get the flinch. I played very poorly in this match, and I want to apologize to Torkoal for that. I got tilted very early with the double Sacred Biomiss. I lost my Entei. I basically threw away my Entei, and my best way of making sure that Archosaur didn't win the game. But instead, I got very lucky in 2 Iron Head flinches, and I won the game. Should I have won this game? That's up for debate. But we did get the win. I would not call that a good game. It's GG to them, but GG, obviously it's nice to play them, but at the same time, I wasn't playing my best, and I got tilted with the Wigglytuff, and then I win on 2 Iron Head flinches. Jirachi is dumb and stupid and bailed me out of this game for no reason. That is the story of this game. I should not have won this game, and then Scarf Jirachi did Scarf Jirachi things, and I hate it, but it bailed me out because Scarf Jirachi is very stupid. There was a very high chance that Blizzard was going to kill my Mudsdale, and that was it. That was the game over. So, we got lucky. Sometimes you do just get lucky. I've been actually fairly lucky this league, to be honest. There's been quite a few things where it's just barely gone my way. So, yeah. But we did get the win. This does mean we are 5-0. We're now second in the league because week 5, both of the remaining 4-0s, because there were 3 4-0s, and the 2 other 4-0s actually played each other, so one of them went down to 4-1. So we are second place behind the other 5-0 at this point. I believe we are plus 14. Plus 12 or plus 14, I can't remember. No, we're plus 14, I think, so. Plus 14 differential at this point, which is pretty solid. For playoffs, we only technically need 1 more win, and a decent differential, or 2 more wins gets us the guaranteed playoffs. So we're in a very, very strong position at this point. At this point, it's learning our team a bit better. Maybe we've still got time to make transactions, and trying to make sure we get a decent playoff spot. If we can get a bye through the first round, that'd be great. But we do still have a lot of heavy hitters to go through before the end of the season. So that will do it for this this match. Thank you very much for watching. Sorry it was a little on the downer, but I didn't feel good about this match pre-match, during match, or even post-match. I played very poorly. I was not in a good mood during the match for just through outside things, and then obviously double Sacred Biomisses. And then just looking back on it, I played extremely poorly in so many situations. sacking off my Entei, sacking off my Pult. I don't disagree with the Mandy or the Blastoise sack, really. But the other two I absolutely disagree with. I think keeping those alive would have been much better for me in the late game. So, regardless, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.